The door slammed open so hard that everyone at the table jumped. Clara Bennett lifted her head just as her mother-in-law walked in, heels clicking loudly against the floor. Christmas music was still playing. Plates were half full. Glasses were raised in the air. Then Clara saw the woman behind her, young, well-dressed, calm, confident. Margaret Cole smiled like she had just won something. She stepped aside and pulled the woman forward. "Merry Christmas," Margaret said. "I brought someone special." Clara felt her stomach drop. She turned slowly toward her husband. Ethan Cole was staring at the floor. He didn't look confused. He didn't look surprised. He looked guilty. That was when Clara knew. This was not a mistake. This was not some awkward misunderstanding. This had been planned. Margaret placed a hand on the woman's back. "This is Naomi," she said. "She's going to be very important to this family." The room went silent. Clara waited for Ethan to say something. Anything. He didn't. Someone cleared their throat. Someone else set their fork down. No one knew where to look. Clara felt heat rush to her face, but she stayed seated. She folded her napkin slowly and placed it on the table. Margaret turned to Ethan. "I thought Christmas was the best time to stop lying." Ethan stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "Mom, this isn't how it was supposed to happen." Clara looked at him. So there it was. She had been married to this man for 4 years, together for 7. She had defended him, trusted him, chosen him every single day, and now his mother was introducing his affair partner in her house like a holiday gift. 3 months earlier, Clara had been sitting alone in her office when she noticed the numbers didn't add up. Ethan's spending had changed. Small charges at first, fancy dinners during work hours, hotel bills in areas he never needed to be in. When she asked him, he smiled too quickly. "Work stuff," he said. "You know how demanding clients can be." She did know. Clara owned her own marketing consultancy. She lived by patterns and details, and Ethan's story didn't fit. Still, she said nothing. Instead, she watched. Margaret had never liked Clara. She didn't hide it anymore. "You're independent," Margaret once said with a thin smile. "Some men prefer women who know how to stay in their place." Clara had smiled back. She always did. When Clara finally hired a private investigator, she didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just wanted the truth. She got it. Photos, messages, dates. The woman's name was Naomi Reed, a real estate agent, younger, ambitious. And then came the part that hurt the most. Margaret had helped them. Text messages showed introductions, restaurant suggestions, even advice on how to keep things quiet. Clara sat in her car that night and stared straight ahead. Her chest felt tight. Her hands shook. But she didn't scream. She whispered, "Okay." From that moment, Clara stopped reacting and started preparing. She tracked every expense. $12,000 spent on hotels, gifts, and dinners. She saved screenshots. She kept timelines. She met with her lawyer, Elena Morales, who read the prenuptial agreement and nodded. "You're protected," Elena said. "The house is yours. Your business is yours. He can't touch them." That gave Clara peace. Thanksgiving came and went with forced smiles and tight laughter. Margaret made comments that cut deep. "Some women hold men back," she said loudly at the table. "Others help them rise." Clara noticed Margaret almost said Naomi's name. Almost. That night, Clara stood in front of her mirror and said, "She's planning something bigger." She was right. Now it was Christmas. Margaret stepped further into the dining room. Naomi stood beside her, looking uncomfortable but unaware. "This is Ethan's future," Margaret announced. Clara finally spoke. "Naomi," she said calmly, "what exactly were you told about this invitation?" Naomi hesitated. "I was told Ethan and his wife were separated." Ethan closed his eyes. Clara nodded. "We had breakfast together this morning, in this house." Naomi's face drained of color. Margaret snapped, "This is unnecessary." Clara turned to her. "You brought another woman into my home and called her my replacement. I think this conversation is very necessary." Ethan reached for Clara. "Please, not like this." She pulled her hand away. "You lost the right to choose how this happens." Clara reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. She placed it gently on the table. Margaret laughed nervously. What is that supposed to be? Clara looked around the table, at the stunned faces, at the woman who had been lied to, at the man who had betrayed her. It's the truth, she said. She opened the folder. And Christmas was no longer pretending to be peaceful. Clara opened the folder slowly, making sure every eye in the room followed her movements. Inside were photographs, receipts, and messages she had collected over the last 3 months. Every dinner, every hotel stay, every gift Ethan had bought Naomi was documented. Every moment of Margaret's involvement was there too. Margaret stiffened, trying to regain control. Clara, put that away. You're making a scene. Clara met her gaze calmly. A scene? You call bringing another woman into my home a scene? You've been orchestrating this behind my back for months, Margaret. This is the scene. Naomi's eyes widened as she looked from the folder to Ethan, finally realizing the truth. Wait, all of this? You knew? She whispered, her voice trembling. Clara nodded. I knew everything, and now everyone else does too. Ethan stepped forward, panic rising in his voice. Clara, please, we can fix this. It wasn't like you think. Clara shook her head slowly. No, Ethan, it was exactly like I think, and that's why this ends tonight. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the Christmas music. Even the children sitting quietly with plates in front of them seemed to sense the tension. Clara flipped to the first set of photos. Naomi at a hotel, Ethan sitting across from her, smiling like they were alone in the world. The evidence was undeniable. Margaret's text messages, suggesting dates and giving advice, followed. Every lie, every secret carefully documented. Naomi's hands shook. I didn't know. I thought he loved me. Clara's eyes softened slightly, but only for a moment. Naomi, you were lied to by both of them. You weren't part of love. You were part of a plan. Margaret tried to interrupt. That's not fair. Clara turned to her sharply. Not fair? You brought this woman into my house on Christmas to humiliate me. That's not fair. You manipulated your son, and you manipulated this girl. That's not fair? You're right, it isn't. But I'm not letting it happen anymore. Ethan's face turned red with guilt. Clara, come on. It's Christmas. Let's just calm down. Clara took a deep breath. Calm down? You've spent months lying. Do you think I'm going to calm down now? She opened another section of the folder. Financial records. $12,000 on dates, hotels, gifts, all for her. And Margaret, you were there the whole time, helping him, planning it. Margaret's eyes flicked to Ethan. This isn't what you said. Ethan looked down, silent. Clara could see the guilt weighing him down. The bravado, the excuses, everything. It was gone. Do you realize, Clara continued, her voice steady, that I could have confronted this months ago? But I didn't. I collected every piece of evidence, every lie, every manipulation, because I wanted to make sure that when I spoke, everyone knew the truth. Naomi's voice was small. I just didn't want to be a part of this. Clara nodded. I know. And that's why this isn't about you. This is about truth, and about taking control of my life again. Margaret's lips tightened. You can't just... I can, Clara interrupted, because I'm protected. The house is mine, purchased before this marriage. My business, completely mine. My finances, safe. You and Ethan thought you could humiliate me and take what's mine? Wrong. Everything you planned has been undone. Ethan's shoulders slumped. Clara, I never wanted it to go this far. You never wanted it to go this far? Clara's voice rose slightly. Ethan, you spent months lying to me. You spent months betraying me while Margaret fed the plan, and you call that not going too far? Naomi covered her mouth. Tears were forming. Clara could feel the shock in the room. Every family member was staring, some in disbelief, others in horror. Clara flipped the folder closed. Now, she said, voice calm again, you know the truth. You see it. Everyone sees it, and now you'll understand that I am not someone to be played with." Margaret tried one last attempt at control. "Clara, think about the family, the holiday." Clara shook her head. "No, Margaret. Think about respect. Think about honesty. Think about consequences. You lost all of that when you planned this." Ethan tried to step closer. "Please, can we just—" Clara raised her hand slightly. "No, this is done. And there's nothing you can say that changes what's happening next. Divorce papers are ready. Prenup in place. Everything I own stays mine, and I will not be silenced." Naomi stood there, finally realizing the depth of what had happened. I should go." Clara nodded. "Yes, you deserve to leave this mess behind. You were never the problem." The room remained silent for a moment. The tension was thick. Margaret was fuming but powerless. Ethan looked defeated, shrinking under the weight of his choices. Clara took a step back. "I want everyone to understand something. Betrayal doesn't give anyone power over me. Lies don't give anyone power over me. And manipulation, no matter how clever, can never take away what I have worked for and earned." The rest of the evening passed with quiet shock. Family members whispered among themselves, unsure what to say. Some avoided eye contact with Margaret entirely. Some looked at Ethan with open disappointment. Clara didn't cry. She didn't yell. She didn't make a scene. She simply stayed composed, observing, and letting the truth sink in. Later that night, after the guests left, Clara sat alone by the tree. The folder lay on the coffee table. The Christmas lights reflected in her eyes. She allowed herself a small smile. She had been betrayed, yes, but she had not been defeated. She reached for her phone and typed a quick message to her lawyer confirming final signatures. Everything was in order. Nothing could touch her. Then she paused and whispered to herself, "Ethan thought this would break me. Margaret thought this would humiliate me. But I am still standing." Stronger than ever. Her phone buzzed, a message from a friend checking in. Clara smiled and typed back, "Merry Christmas. Things are finally clear." She leaned back, letting the tension drain from her shoulders. She had confronted the lies, exposed the betrayal, and reclaimed control. The night was quiet. The snow outside fell softly. Clara felt the kind of peace that comes only after standing up and saying, "I will not be played with." She glanced at the folder once more, the evidence of their schemes now meaningless because she had faced them head-on, and deep down, she knew this was only the beginning of the life she would rebuild, on her own terms. The next morning, Clara woke to a quiet house. The Christmas chaos had ended, but the echoes of the confrontation lingered. She walked into the living room, the folder still on the coffee table, and allowed herself to breathe fully for the first time in months. She had faced the betrayal, and for once it felt like she was in control. Ethan tried calling several times, leaving messages that went unanswered. Clara didn't respond. She didn't need to. He had made his choices, and she had made hers. The divorce papers went smoothly. Clara signed with Elena, her lawyer, feeling no shame, no anger, just clarity. The house was hers, the business hers, the life hers. Ethan retained some savings, a few personal items, but the foundation of Clara's world remained untouched. Naomi stepped out of the picture completely once she realized the extent of the manipulation. Margaret Cole faced a backlash she hadn't anticipated. Family gatherings became awkward, cold. Ethan's father, George, confronted his wife privately, expressing disappointment and shame. Margaret had lost influence over the family she had tried to control. For Clara, the hardest part was not the confrontation itself, but letting go. She had been careful, calculating, patient, but the pain was real. She allowed herself quiet moments to feel the hurt. The tears came, not in front of anyone, not at the dinner, not at the office, but behind closed doors, in the safety of her home. 6 months later, Clara was thriving. Her consultancy had landed a major client, and she was traveling for business, gaining recognition for her sharp skills and integrity. She was free from the manipulations, free from the lies, free from the constant tension of living under someone else's control. One afternoon, she met a kind man, Daniel Parker, at a charity event. He was a pediatric surgeon, soft-spoken but confident. He didn't try to impress her or overpower her. He admired her strength without expecting her to compromise it. Their connection grew slowly, naturally, and Clara appreciated it not as a replacement for the past, but as proof that life could move forward. Clara reflected on the events often. She thought about Ethan and Margaret. She thought about Naomi. But mostly, she thought about herself. She realized that facing betrayal had not only taught her to protect what was hers, but had strengthened her ability to trust her instincts, to act with strategy, and to choose dignity over vengeance. Her friends asked her if she was angry. She admitted she had been, briefly, but the anger had faded once the confrontation ended. She had reclaimed her power, and that was far more satisfying than revenge ever could be. Clara still remembered the cold way Margaret introduced Naomi, the shock on Ethan's face, the silence of the room as the truth was revealed. Every detail was etched in her memory, and every detail reminded her that she had not crumbled, that she had controlled the situation, that she had ended the manipulation on her terms. She would never forget, but she had moved forward. The pain had transformed into clarity. She knew the importance of preparation, of knowing her worth, and of standing firm. Betrayal. You loved this story? Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share, like, and drop your comments below.